Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining us today for the third annual Books Are the Basis Week Festival. In this video, we have the opportunity to hear from His Holiness Hanumat Presaka Maharaj and His Grace Atul Krishna Prabhu on the Nectar of Instruction. I hope that this podcast will inspire you to read Srila Prabhupada's books every day. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and access hundreds of such inspirational videos. And if you know a friend who is keen on this topic of reading Srila Prabhupada's books regularly, invite them to. So now, on to the video. All glories to Nectar of Instruction.
I noticed, Maharaj, that you carry, I've seen on many occasions you carrying a copy of the Nectar of Instruction in a small bag around your neck. And that fascinates me that there it is. Yeah. So why do you do that, Maharaj? Like to hear your thoughts on that.
Part of it, I think, is this sannyas nature, sannyas dharma, and so minimalizing things. And Nectar of Instruction, at some point, I realized it is. It's the essence of all of Prabhupada's books, everything else. So it was very convenient. And the other thing is sometimes you meet a situation where you had just an opportunity to distribute a book, and this happens like in a moment. So it's right there. In odd moments, then you can pull it out and take a look at it. So it's very. And also in the bag I have a pen, a pencil, paper, credit card, a few dollars, and basically that's it. When if the fire comes, I grab the bag and I got everything.
Yeah. So if there's a catastrophe, at least you'll have the Nectar of Instruction with you. So
you notice custom bags. You also have propaganda for our Anjana Sudha Academy on.
Yeah, you've written some works on the Nectar of Instruction, which we'll take a look at shortly. And so, what are the verses that you find particularly significant, particularly inspirational in Nectar of Instruction?
To me, it's a very integrated package. You can look at the structure of it. And it's actually very organized how the contents are there. So I think they all have significance. And I kind of notice it depends on your level of development. Like the first verse is kind of Prabhupada says, this ethics and morality, which is universal. Don't smoke, don't drink, get up early, don't be a glutton, don't be a fornicator, don't be a biber. And then later on, when you start getting to the point where you're coming to Raganuga Bhakti or something, then text numbers, 5 and 6 start to become very significant in the purports. But so that's what I would say. It depends on your development, but it's all there. They're all important. They all fit in a certain place in your development.
I heard an interesting comment some years ago. We were in Mayapur. We were studying Nectar of Instruction with His Holiness Advaita Swami Maharaj.
He's right across the room. He's about 10 feet away from you right now here in Spain.
How auspicious is that? Mm-hmm. So Maharaj was commenting how he asked us the question. He asked us the question that Nectar of Instruction, what was the audience that Prabhupada intended it to be for? And he asked the group, and we were most of the students were suggesting that it's for the initiated devotees, for the those Rupanugas, for almost like an elitist type of a audience target. And he mentioned that Prabhupada said, no, it should be for street distribution. It should be published and made for street distribution.
Yeah. He said there should be one copy in every house. In every house, there should be a copy. And then the thing was, he also, somebody was surprised. He said the same thing, but Prabhupada is so advanced. Prabhupada said, well, no, it starts with ethics and morality. But it's a whole thing, but it goes over the full range. In a very short thing, so you can look at everything from beginning to end. Okay, that's
in a glance. In that way, it's quite unique that the full spectrum of Krishna conscious theology is there in 11 verses, the full spectrum from the very beginning, choosing a spiritual master, to the highest levels of Bhagavad Bhakti, of Braja Bhajan in Vrindavan, and the highest levels of the Gaudiya Siddhanta are presented in those levels. And so in that way, it's so unique, it's so powerful.
If you follow the first verse, you become Jagat Guru. First verse. If you follow the first verse, you become Jagat Guru. Yeah, it's a big step. And it finishes off with a stage that even Narada Muni and the Kumaras can't achieve. In the last verse. Yeah.
Which verses of the Upadeshamrita do you find particularly significant?
I find with myself, because I preach a lot with devotees kind of internally, then it's text number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 describes the different levels of devotees and how to advance the different levels and characteristics. And I know when it first came out, there was a tremendous help, because when we understood then that not everybody in ISKCON is the same, And so that was a tremendous help. Number 5, Dikshasti Che Pranata Bhishcha Bhajatam Isham, because it describes all these levels very clearly then.
Interesting that you quoted that line, because oftentimes I think I meditate on that line. We travel around different places. Devotees offer obeisances, and when you go to offer obeisances in return, they say, no, not expecting you to return the obeisances. And I usually comment that, no, I want to be a Rupanuga. I want to be a follower of Rupa. And he says, Dikshashti Chit Pranati Vicha Bhajantam Isham, that those who are Bhajantam Isham, who are seriously worshipping the Supreme Lord, and who are Dikshashti Chit, who have taken initiation, and in other words, they're committed to spiritual life and seriously, which is the devotees in our movement, Dikshashti Chet Pranati, that one should bow down to such devotees. So we desire to be a genuine Rupanuga, and we bow down to all the devotees. I often mention anyone wearing tilak, any devotee in the community wearing tilak, I feel that we should bow down to, because that's I feel that Rupa Goswami has that in mind when he's recommending that.
Wow.
And then there's the other Krishnati Gaditam Manasadriyata, that those who are on the lips, Krishnati Giri Manasadriyata, on whose lips the holy name can be heard. Manasadriyata, they should be respected within the mind. That's also very relevant for us in our preaching, when we're meeting people in the preaching, when we're meeting people in day-to-day life. A Vaishnava should treat people in those people who we're meeting and we're discussing Krishna consciousness with, anyone who utters the name of Krishna. Rupa Goswami instructs that we should respect that person within the mind and consider them a Vaishnava.
I've heard that when the Twin Towers collapsed, that big attack in New York, that Osama bin Laden said, Allahu Akbar, God is great. So according to that analysis, the name appeared on his lips. So is he a Vaishnava? According to that analysis, should we respect him, at least in the mind?
Yeah. Well, Krishnati, Krishnati, and in the purport, Prabhupada's quoting the statements from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Mahaprabhu is discussing with the residents of Kulinagram about who's a Vaishnava, and Mahaprabhu mentions then that from whose mouth one time the holy name of Krishna is heard, should be considered a Vaishnava. And that's also very pertinent in terms of society, because there's aspects in Upadeshamrita which are dealing with society at large, like the second verse, basically dealing environmental issues, not hoarding and not greeding, not being greedy. In that way, that the scope is there, addressing the serious sadhaka and also addressing issues which are relevant for every human being.
Well, we've used that because many times you have a chance to give classes and economics classes and that kind of thing, and that second text is just fantastic as a basis. And of course, from it, Prabhupada quotes Ishavashamidam Sarvam. It guides you to other texts, and so it becomes you're seeing a fantastic basis to give classes on economics, or like you're talking in this thing about ecology and stuff. And we've had just people was mobbing our book table afterwards because we gave a nice presentation on ecology and everything else based on that second text.
So you're oftentimes basing your presentations that you're giving in public in colleges in that field, the outreach programs, and you're oftentimes basing those presentations on Upadeshamrita.
Yeah. Many times it makes a very, very nice basis, and then after that, then you can of course distribute it. People take it, and the interest is there. But it is Prabhupada in the preface. Prabhupada says, he says who we are. We're Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we're Bengali Vaishnavas. So we can do then is to make a map of India and show where Bengal is. And then I say, well, there's two S's in Sanskrit. There's the dot under it is Sha, and the line above it is Ha, And so then I write on the board, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I say, can you pronounce this? I do it first, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And they all go, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And I say, thank you, because your material life is finished. But the preface, to me, then when you start getting into actual ethics and morality, that's where they're interested in the social, political, cultural aspect, the traditions, the activities, the preface. But then when you start coming to the first text, it starts to become a little bit tough, because now you're talking about very serious things and following it. So I find in general that people are already, maybe the first text is already something people have to consider. It's very serious material that you're actually going to follow these practices. But the preface is exactly what massive people, Prabhupada put a preface there, massive people, okay, where are you from? What are you doing? Who's your saint?
Yeah. And then text 3 also is so inspirational.
Utsaha nishchaya darya tatta karma pravartana sammityaga satovide sabir bhaktir prasidati.
Yeah, it's great. So much enthusiasm generated there in text 3. Sadvi bhakti prasiddhati. These 6 activities which expand prasiddhati, which expand devotional life. Utsaha, nishchaya, dharyat, and so practical. Nishchayat, patience. Nishchayat, confidence. Dharyat, patience. Tat karma pravartana, following the footsteps of the great acharyas in every aspect of our life. Sadvi bhakti prasiddhati. These things will guarantee the expansion and the development of Krishna conscious bhakti, of devotion. It's so practical.
When I look at one of the things we've done a lot in our Krishna consciousness, which we're consolidating now, is world classical literature. For example, we've had enormous success with Hamlet and Arjuna. And I have PowerPoint shows, everything. And so many people in the West are attracted. And then afterwards, they say, oh, I want to read this about this too. And distribute very well, the Bhagavad Gita. But these principles which you're talking about, you find exactly the same things in Shakespeare's dramas, and Journey to the West was some on the same principles. Hanuman, for example, looking for Sita everywhere in Ravana's palace and city and can't find her, and he becomes depressed. He loses enthusiasm. Then he stops and he goes back to his intelligence, which is where Prabhupada's, how he defines enthusiasm in the purport. And he said, okay, but wait a second. If I lose enthusiasm, then it's guaranteed I won't find her. But if I remain enthusiastic, there's still a possibility. Okay. So they're such, like I say, there's universal principles in life. I think it doesn't really apply specifically to Krishna until you come to somewhere there, maybe like the 7th text or something. Before that, it's different religions have the same 3 levels. More ethics and morality is universal. So it's basically it's the good advice you're going to get from any source. It's already there. Then later on, it starts talking about more specifically our tradition and so on.
Talking in regard to our tradition, and the great theologian Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, he particularly wrote quite extensively on Upadeshamrita, that Bhakti-Vinod Bhakti-Loka, his commentaries on Upadeshamrita, and also in his bhajan, Vaishnav Thakur, and Chaya Bega Domi. The first section of the Upadeshamrita he mentions in Vaishnav Thakur, Chaya Bega Domi, purify me of the 6 urges, Chaya Bega Domi. That's the first verse. Chaya Dosha Shodhi, purify me of the 6 disqualifications in the second verse. Chaya, Shatta, Shanga. Please bestow upon me the 6 kinds of holy associations.
Yeah, yeah. That's from Sharanagati, or is it from Gita?
Sharanagati, yeah, that's the Bhajan Vaishnav Thakur. Vaishnav Thakur.
Yeah, there's like 4 songs in a row there. In our book, we give the exact details, but that's it. That's one song, and there's like 3 more, I think, all based on Upadeshamrita.
Can you? I've heard that you've written some commentaries on Upadeshamrita. Do you have the book with you, Maharaj? Can I see?
Well, I just happen to have it.
Show us. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about this work?
Yeah, of course, we've been, because of our minimalist nature, sannyas nature, okay, know a little bit about everything, a lot about something. So Upadeshamrita, we've always been preaching everything else. So maybe like about 7 years ago or something, I decided, okay, let me just record, all my commentaries and get it all down. And I did that. I recorded that every day from Manglarti, about maybe 5-10 minutes and stuff. And those were all there. And then we started, transcribing them. And it was very satisfying for me, anybody. Okay, this is now I'm leaving behind like all the thoughts I've had and connections. So in this song by Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, he says, Krishna, Krishna Bole, Daya Tave Pache Pache. I'm just running behind you, chanting Krishna, Krishna. So we named this Tava Pache Pache, afterwards to the Nectar of Instruction.
Yeah.
And it's available at Amazon.com. You can go there and look it up. And it's only $10, very beautifully inspired by and bound here. And it has very well, what's the word, like typeset. One of our disciples is good, very good. Radhika Raman, others help edit it. So it goes through text by text. It starts with the beginning of the book. The Ritvik thing. What is the position of Prabhupada in ISKCON? Well, he put it on the front of every single book. Yeah, he's not the only guru in ISKCON. He's the founder of Charya. Okay. So we go through like that, very scrutinizingly, because for years I've been studying it like that. And also, the other thing is that Prabhupada has appendices. Prabhupada has a biography of Prabhupada. There's, what do you call it? The pronunciation guide. So we made a little comment. It's aimed at Bhakti-Vaibhava level, when you're doing the first 6 cantos. So by that time, you should have read the entire, Your Ever Well Wisher. So you should be able to write a little more extensive biography. But at least for Bhakti-Shastrы, you should be able to be tested on the biography in Upadeshamrita and know all the facts there about Prabhupada. Then just, for example, the, Prabhupada did, pronunciation guide. So for Bhakti-Vaibhava level, then we went through and did an Anvaya, which means we changed the order of the words in the word-by-word order, so it matches up with the English word order. And then you see that the translation is just completely obvious. And Radhika Raman wrote a little explanation of why Sanskrit word order is a little different than English word order. And then something very central we took all the quotations within Upadeshamrita. Prabhupada and the Acharyas, Bhakti-Siddhanta, they quote a certain text, or they paraphrase a certain text. So we went through all of those, and it makes an incredible study guide then, because in Upadeshamrita is covering everything from simple to advanced. So all the citations and everything else are all, then there. It's a fantastic way to look at all Prabhupada's books, and then you can memorize all those texts in there, and you have fantastic, structure. So I think it's very satisfying. And then we want anybody who wants to contribute. It's not our book; we're editing it. But if people have like some things about the history of the book, how to have a birthday party for Upadeshamrita, Prabhupada writes when it was, I think it was Vishnu Mahotsav. So we're very satisfied with it. We can live our body now.
I'm interested to take a look at that section there, which describes the syntax, the Sanskrit syntax of the order of the words, and looking at the translations in that way. That sounds very interesting. We often find in the teachers training programs that we conduct that when we ask students to make a presentation of a topic of their own choice, of a topic that they feel devotees require learning on. It's like the teacher's training program is approaching learning through identifying the learning needs of the students and designing effective learning to meet their learning needs. And regularly, devotees do presentations on the 4th verse of Upadeshamrita, considering it very necessary, very important, essential learning for devotees in terms of their interaction. And so much wisdom there in that verse, how to interact with devotees. Dadati pratigrinnati guyamakiti prichiti punkte bojayate chaiva sadviti pritilakhan. The ways of that Rupa Goswami has been so kind because he's given us such practical methods of pritilakhan, of expressing affection amongst Vaishnavas. And it actually gives us so much support for our social interaction and so much guidance, which makes it so much easier. Social interaction can flow so much more smoothly when we know the basic ways of interacting, the basic ways of sharing affection. And then that's combined subsequently with dealing with the different levels of devotees. It's a complete Upadeshamrita gives us a complete package on social interaction on the transcendental platform.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. To me, it's exactly that. How to apply those. That's the one I lecture on the most, and I see devotees on the Madhyamadikaya level are most impelled. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah. Again, I have some stories in there specifically about, some very, very, striking stories, funny stories about our experiences in giving and receiving gifts, and how Chanika Pandit says, there's no show of affection like a gift. Yeah. When the person says, "Wow, that's you know me. Where'd you get this?" Oh, yeah. I took a long time. Wow. And people, I've had friends that they've kept things their whole life as a prominent thing because it was something which touched their heart. Yeah.
And the science that Prabhupada goes into, the detailed science of accepting prasadam, how he talks about the businessmen that they'll go to a restaurant, hotel, and they'll entertain each other and feed each other. And in that way, the business transactions are conducted very smoothly. And the science of sharing qualities. Prabhupada's quoting in the purport about the Mahaprabhu's instructions to Raghunath Das Goswami, Balona Kaibo, that Gramya Kotana Shunai by Balona Kaibo, to avoid eating the food which is cooked by non-devotees and the grains and Dushta Hoimon, Vishayeda Anna Koila Dushta Hoimon. Eating the grains cooked by a non-devotee will spoil your mind. And Prabhupada elaborates in such a significant way, so specifically and so powerfully about the significance of exchanging prasadam and accepting prasadam.
Yeah, one time I was traveling in Punjab with my disciple Raktak, and all the ladies there wanted to cook for the sannyasi. And for myself, I made the standard that not only was it the food had to be vegetarian, but the cooks had to be vegetarian. And Prabhupada in one purport says that, talks about that. So he was, many preparations were there, and he said, "Oh, Swamiji offers everything to the Shringadev. So unless the cooks are vegetarian, you will be ruined." And so all the Punjabi ladies, they started looking at everything, and then some of the ladies weren't present. The preparations were, and you could see they were talking amongst themselves about what the standards were for different families were, and some of them were looking a little surprised. Oh, taking some of the preparations away and stuff. But it really inspired them. It inspired them to become strict. Yeah, we want to cook prasadam. Okay, we can do that. We're a little loose, but no, we can become strict. And Swamiji's right. But food is such an intense way for communicating culture.
Yeah, and it's so important in everyday dealings. When someone comes to the home, Prabhupada would say anyone who comes to the temple that they should get prasadam, and in the home, greeting a guest and offering a little prasadam. That's not actually. It's something that you don't find in Western society. But it's so important in Vedic society that to feed somebody, even a morsel of prasadam, and has such a powerful effect on affecting their heart, and establishing a relationship. And Prabhupada quotes in that verse, he quotes from Mahaprabhu's Shanatan Shikha that Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Shadda Kabunoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koraya Udoy. That Prabhupada's explaining that this giving the prasadam, this will awaken the Krishna Prema, which is dormant in the heart of all living beings. Just by associating with Vaishnavas in this way, it will awaken their dormant Krishna Prema. And Prabhupada's referring to this Dadati and the Bhuktam Bojayate, the prasadam distribution. He's explaining that in terms of preaching and expanding the Krishna consciousness movement.
Yeah. I mean, you see also like Catholic related cultures, Italian or Spanish, like that. It's the same thing. There's also a consciousness of food and giving and receiving it like that, and so on.
Yeah. Oh, and you have the Eucharist in the Mass.
Yeah, wow.
It's like a direct union. Eucharist. They call it communion. It's like they do yoga with God by taking that and accepting it, and it's a whole ritual for accepting it, and the qualification of the person giving it. That's an interesting comparison that you brought up there. I hadn't thought of that before. Maharaj, what about Radha Kund and Rupa Goswami's discussions on Radha Kund, and how do we take that for the average rank and file devotee these days?
No, rank and file. Again, the purport Prabhupada is saying that, he's saying stay on the banks of Radha Kund, but Radha Kund is described by, I think, Raghunath Das, and he's talking about how, the banks are made of diamond dust and they're beautiful swans swimming there. So what we see is something which is down at our level. It's like the deity worship. If we're purified, we can see Radha Krishna. But at our level, we see statue, and then we begin to feel some presence. So I would say it's the same way. It's like deity of Radha and Krishna. We can go and be respectful, pay our obeisances, circumambulate, chant, and especially engage in hearing and chanting. And I also think that myself, sometimes when you're there, you do get a little glimpse, which can inspire you to realize that, there's something a lot above of what science and technology is trying to present as the ultimate goal of life. So that's what it is.
I was fortunate to spend time in East Bengal, Bangladesh, at our Sri Pundarik Dham, the birthplace of Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who is Vrishabhanu Maharaj, the father of Sri Radhika, who appeared in East Bengal to associate with Mahaprabhu in his pastimes. And there, one great Vaishnava associate of Sri Pundarik, that is the Mukunda Datta, Vasudev Datta, and Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi Mahodai. And one great Vaishnava there, they created Radha Kund there. The Dhananjay Pandit, a well-known Vaishnava, Dhananjay Pandit, he created the Radha Kund there. And we were fortunate to give seminars on Upadeshamrita there at Sri Pundarik Dham on the banks of Radha Kund. And for me, that was a very wonderful experience. Actually, I felt I was able to enter more deeply into the mood of Radha Kund in Pundarik Dham. And then I because of my offenses, I wasn't able to experience that so much in Braj, but in being preaching and in the preaching field there in East Bengal, and of course because Pundarik Vidyanidhi Mahodai, his birthplace, so he's present there, and Sri Radhika, naturally she's present where Vrishabhanu Baba Maharaj is, so Sri Radhika's presence is there. So naturally Sri Radhika, as you're mentioning about understanding Sri Radha Kund on the spiritual level. So where Sri Radhika is present and she's taking a bath, dipping regularly in Radha Kund. So with the transcendental vision, one can see Radha Kund. Yes.
Prabhupada says only the followers of Lord Chaitanya can appreciate the spiritual significance of Radha Kund. And Bhakti-Vedanta in his yoga pit, no? In his samadhi, he also has a Radha Kund and a Govardhan there also.
Yeah, how fortunate we are in Mayapur, where we can just walk up the road, and there Radha Kund also very beautiful very, very nicely kept in Chaitanya Mat, very nicely kept and clean and huge. The fishes, they're like huge fish, this big that eat only that they clean the plates of the offering. Same in Pundarik Dham, the Radha Kund is not, you can't bathe in Radha Kund. No one bathes there. It's only used for the worship of Sri Sri Barshabhani Murari, Radha Krishna deities that we installed there, ISKCON, when we got that property there.
Wow.
And so the fish there, the devotees, they go and they're cleaning the Lord's plates in the Kund, and the fish are coming in there. They're eating off the plates. They're only eating the Mahaprasadam of Sri Sri Barshabhani Murari. That's the Kishori form, the young girl, Sri Radhika, and a young girl form, Barshabhani Murari, who attracts Murari. And the daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj, Barshabhani Murari, and she's there in a deity form. And Radha Kund is just there beside the temple. You just walk down the steps and Radha Kund is there, and they use the water for bathing the deities and cleaning the deity paraphernalia, and the fish living there, they must be special souls.
Oh, yeah.
Similarly, here in Mayapur, you can see the fish. In Radha Kund in Vrindavan, there's fish.
In Gokula or Gokula?
Yeah, in Gokula.
Gokula is the material, is a Bhumi Lila. No?
Yeah, Boma Lila Vrindavan. There's fish there in Radha Kund.
In Vrindavan?
Yeah.
The turtles.
Yeah, there's turtles. There's turtles there.
Yeah. There must be some kind of fish. Not so. Yeah, I think so. And what is it, Lalita Kund, which is right beside, connected to Radha Kund. There are many fish there hanging around for getting some, prasad.
Upadesha Sharam, I find particularly powerful. That's text number 8 of Upadeshamrita there, where Rupa Goswami gives the essence of all advice to remain in Braj and remember the pastimes of Radha Krishna and constantly chant the holy names. And how should we approach that essence of all instructions as sadhakas in ISKCON nowadays, Maharaj?
No, I think it's there. In text number 7, he says, Tanama Rupa Charitade Satapya Vidya. And so when we're actually purified of material attachment, we aren't be controlled by the 6 pushes, the 4 principles, or can follow those. And it's progressive. And you come to a point where you're Adoshvada, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nartanivriti Nishta, Ruchi. That's why I think where it begins with Raganuga Bhakti, you can really begin to practice it because you're getting some taste. And so then you can cultivate that by associating, following the example of Ragatmika and Bhaktas. So yeah, I think it's quite natural, within ISKCON. What is it? If I understand, Raganuga, when you come to the platform of Raganuga, you're not doing anything different than anybody else. You're a very good sadhaka and this kind of stuff in public. So you can't distinguish it in terms of what people are doing. Not that they're not following the principles or they're following the principles, but it's how you do it. And then the Buddhist phrase, when 2 thieves meet upon the road, they need no introduction. They know each other by sight. So when 2 Raganuga boxes meet each other, they realize, okay, we should want to talk here a little bit.
It's been very enlivening discussing Sri Upadeshamrita this evening with you, Maharaj, just like 2 thieves meeting on the road.
Yeah. So we could go on for hours. So.
I look forward to coming back to Upadeshamrita now after hearing your realizations that you shared, which deepened my understanding of many aspects of the work. So I thank you for that.
Okay. Same to you and more of it.
So let us wish our listeners, let us wish them all the best for their subsequent studies of Sri Upadeshamrita.
Yeah. And also distribution too. Distribute the book to every single house.
Jai. Param Vijay Te Shri Krishna Sankirtanam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Bhakti, the Sri Upadeshamrita ki. Nectar devotion ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Look
Hare
forward
Krishna.
to discussing further with you the subject of Srila Prabhupada's books and regularly reading them.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.